Hello everyone, Lady Rose here today. I wanted to talk today a little bit about moon phases because a lot of people tend to get those mixed up. Sorry if my camera is bouncing around here. Try and be smooth here. So I've got some books, I've got a deck of cards that I use within my tarot readings. Now the cards are oracle cards, they're not tarot cards, but I use them a lot in my readings because I find they're very good for sort of gauging the energy that's around people. But I wanted to talk first about the phases of the moons because a lot of people don't always understand the phases. And if you're doing any kind of energy work, whether it's manifesting or any kind of pagan kind of energy work, it's always good to know where the moon is and what phase the moon is in. Because the reason being is that the moon reflects the energy of where the universe is at that point in time as well. So that being said, the universe's energy ebbs and flows much like ours does too. We have good days, we have bad days, we have energy that's, super high and we're getting things done on one day, and the next day we're feeling low and low motivation, that sort of thing. So when you know the moon phases, you know where the universe kind of is too, because the moon reflects the energy of the sun. And it also is a reflection of the energy that's within the universe at that point. So you know whether you should be bringing things to you or pushing things away, getting things out of your life, bad habits, that sort of thing, or bringing in love or bringing in money or abundance or whatever it might be. And no matter what kind of energy it is, then you know how to gauge what your questions or what your spells or what your affirmations or what your energy work should be like that day. And it can explain a lot of things too. So that being said, I do actually explain the moon phases in my particular book, The Witch's Way, Intro to the Craft. So I go through all the moon phases in here and tell you kind of what the energy involved is. So I've got a good picture here. This is a dark moon picture, but it shows all the moon cycles. So this is the dark moon down here, obviously, that you can't see. So the dark moon is actually when you don't see the moon at all. So the moon goes through this particular phase about every 28 days. So some of you may have already known that, but I just want to go through some of the energy of the moon. So first there's the new moon. So we'll begin with the new moon. It's coming right out of the dark moon phase. So the new moon is when you want to start new projects, when you want to start the next phase of a project, when you are planning something and you want to kind of get the ball rolling. That's the time to kind of plant seeds and start that cultivation of whatever that project is, whether it's an inner project or an outer project, whatever it might be, whatever energy work you might be working with. The new moon is when to start those things, to start planting the seeds, the thoughts, the ideas, because it might not be like, I want to build a house, so I'll buy some wood and build a house. It might be, I want to draw out the blueprints for the house kind of thing, right? So you've got to begin projects. That's a good time to for opportunities and doors opening, new starts of new things. If you're in a new moon and you're questioning, like, should I be changing jobs and a new opportunity for a job steps up, maybe that's a good time to accept that opportunity because your energies are aligning then. Now, there's also the full moon. So the full moon, the new moon starts here, right here. So when you kind of can start to see it. And about 15 days later, we're in the full moon. We're going to talk about these moons in between as well. But then you're in the full moon. Now, the reason I went straight to the full moon is because a lot of people misunderstand the full moon. So the full moon is when the goddess, the moon, is fully pregnant. She's fully round, okay? It's a time of wishing. I've got some books here that I'm going to go through too as well that are good reads for understanding the moon. So the full moon is a time of creation. It's a great time to start, not to start, but to journal, to write, do some art project, to do some creative process. It's also the time, like I said, to wish, make your wishes come true. It's also time to be grateful. Gratitude is really big around the full moon, and it's a good time to be grateful for what you have. It's a good time to be grateful for reaching that next level in the project that you're working on, because a lot of projects aren't going to take more than 15 days or 28 days kind of thing. A lot of our projects are repetition kind of things, and also have a lot of different steps, right? Like when you build a house, you're not going to do it in a month, right? So let's say our project is building the house, and we start at the new moon, and we've got the blueprints printed up for it. So we, want to figure out what the next stage is. Maybe it's buying the piece of property we want to build the house on, whatever it might be. Maybe it's, doing that first dig and digging the basement for that house. Whatever it might be, that's the project that started at the new moon that we were pulling in. And the full moon is when, say, that project, that first step of the project is coming to fulfillment. So you're grateful for that, right? So you want to be grateful for that. And it's also a very nice smooth time of the month. And like I said, it's a time of gratitude. It's a time of passion. It's a time of creativity. So if you're feeling more creative, then that's the time to do things as well on the full moon. What the full moon is not, and I want to make this very clear, because in my particular local area, there's a lot of full moon circles, which is awesome. I love that people are gathering and all that kind of stuff, and finding peace with each other. But a lot of these circles are doing releasing things and purging and letting go and all that kind of stuff. That is not work or energy work that you want to be doing at the full moon. Like I said, the full moon is about being thankful, being grateful for that next leveling up in your life or in your project or whatever. It's a time of creative passion. It's a time of being passionate about things and finding those things that inspire you. It's an inspirational time, and it's a time of making those wishes. Perhaps you've reached that next goal, and now you want to make a wish. So make those wishes, pull things in. It's a time of abundance. It is not a time of releasing. It is not a time of letting go. That's not what that moon phase is for. So if you're in a circle where they're doing that in a full moon, they're actually what I call running against the current. So if you're in a river, and of course a river flows this way, when you're in a full moon circle that's doing releasing on a full moon, you're walking against the current. And then you wonder why things don't always work out and why you're not letting go quite so easily, because the full moon is a time of drawing things in. And also sort of a time of completion, completing that whole phase of abundance and bringing things in. So you're still in that abundance phase. You're still in that drawing in phase in the full moon. You have 3 days to celebrate the full moon, just as you do almost every other phase in the full moon. Mother Nature was very kind to us and knew that we don't always do things in a timely fashion, and gave us 3 days. The new moon, and maybe this is where the confusion came in for those that sometimes will run moon circles and not really understand what they're doing, is a time of cleansing your crystals, cleansing any tools that you use for spells or energy work. It's also a time to cleanse your altar as well. And so when that kind of thing comes up, maybe they associated that with, okay, it's also a time of releasing and letting go. It is not a time for that for you as a person. It's great for your tools and your crystals and things, because they can bathe in the moonlight and they get charged in the energy of it. You can also bathe in the moonlight. I've done moonlight dances in circles and it's beautiful, but you're not cleansing yourself. You're recharging your being and your soul and your spirit in the moon bath. It's not a cleansing time. You feel cleansed, but not in the way of like I'm purging and I'm letting go and I'm getting rid of stuff. It's more of a recharging of yourself. And same thing with the crystals, because crystals don't really need to be washed. So that I wanted to sort of underline that for the full moon so you understood what the full moon is all about. Now, in between the new moon around here and the full moon up here, there's what we call the quarter moon right here. This is the first quarter moon, and this is where the challenges are going to come in. So a lot of times people kind of give up around here because you've planted these great ideas, you've made these plans, okay, let's start this project, and suddenly you hit a bump in the road. And what I call this is, it's a challenging moon. It's the universe's way of saying, how bad do you really want it? Because you kind of have to prove that you want it. Because we're kind of like children always asking for the lollipop. So the universe is like, I'd love to give you the lollipop, but as a good parent, I need you to clean your room. And then we have to go clean our room, and we get all sulky about it, and we don't want to clean our room, or we get distracted and we start playing with our toys and we never quite get our room cleaned up. And therefore it becomes bumpy here, because then we get upset because we're not getting the lollipop because we didn't finish the challenge. So this is either a challenge or a lesson. Sometimes this can be a time when we go off on a different path. I say it's kind of like, well, we planted great seeds here, but we need to learn something, a skill or a lesson of some kind first before we can get here. So sometimes the quarter moon can take us off on a tangent. It's kind of like, well, I'd love to be a teacher, but I have to go to school to learn how to teach. I can't just show up at a school and start teaching. It's generally not the way it goes. So that's the tangent for you if you want to be a teacher, might be, oh, I have to go off to teacher's college and learn to be a teacher. Then I can come back here and then I can become a teacher. So that's what the quarter moon is. So when you sort of plan your stuff in the new moon, and you realize that, a week or two later, well, usually a week later, or, like even if it's a big project, you might go through a few full moon cycles, and then you're hitting a bump in the road. Check and see if it's the first quarter moon, because more often than not, it is. And this is the time, or leading into the first quarter, when you're going to get those challenges and those lessons and those sort of off the road kind of tangents that you weren't expecting. So that's what the quarter moon is about. And it's also called the waxing moon. So when the moon is starting out slim on the new moon, where you can barely see it, and growing to the full moon, it's called the waxing time of the moon, okay? So you're waxing the moon. And then you hit a moon called the gibbous moon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And what this moon is it's sort of right in, it's sort of right in here, just before the full moon phase, right? So right around here. And gibbous actually means humpback. And it's because it's almost full here, and it's actually a time of smoothness. And it's a really nice time to be in, because it's not as highly charged as the full moon, where sometimes you can get out of control, emotional, sometimes big things come in and it kind of comes out of left field for you. Even good big things can kind of throw you off your rhythm or your routine or whatever. So this is actually a smooth time, because you've gone through the first quarter, you've gone through the challenges, the bumps, the lessons, and now it's like, okay, we're gonna have smooth sailing now. So like I said, the gibbous moon is right after the first quarter and before the full moon. So it's in that time there. And like I said, it means humpback, because she's almost fully pregnant at that point. And this is when you can see the moon also in the afternoon. Often you can see it in the daylight. You might see it in a daylight sky and go, oh, there's the moon. It's usually during the gibbous time that you're able to see that. And like I said, it's a smoother time of the month. There's not challenges happening. Things are just going along smoothly for you. Things are falling into, or starting to fall into place. Now, the next moon I'm going to talk about is the third quarter moon, or the 3/4 moon. So this is the first quarter, right? That's the second quarter. And this is the third quarter. Okay, so the third quarter moon is, and from here, so we've got 3 days of full moon, 1, 2, 3, right? From here to here is called the waning moon. That's when the moon is growing smaller, okay? This is the time of the moon phase when you want to be releasing and letting go and getting rid of things and purging, because you're working with the energy of the moon, who is also releasing and letting go and getting rid of things, right? And going to a smaller moon. So if you're working with the energy, you'll find it a lot easier to let go of things here, whether it's bad habits, toxic relationships, cleaning out your closet, whatever it might be. You'll find it's way easier to do here, a lot less emotional. You'll be ready for that purge, ready for that release. Forgiveness often happens here as well, because you're letting go of the hurt or the betrayal or the hatred, whatever it is. You'll find it a lot easier to let go of that sort of stuff during this part of the moon. So it's called the waning part of the moon, and this is the third quarter one right here. That marks the third quarter. And then we've got the balsamic or crescent moon, and it means soothing or restful. And this is the time just before the dark moon. So this is right here is the third quarter moon. So from here in, we're in a balsamic moon phase. Also called crescent moon because it becomes a crescent. But it's a time of soothing, restful self-care. Self-care is very important through this part as well, and being gentle with yourself because you are releasing. I think it's like 98, it's a really high number. 98% of the women worldwide actually have their period during this time of the moon phase because they're releasing. That's what the period is releasing, right? So it's a huge high number. It's very rare to have it outside of this time. Now I know everybody and their dog now says, oh, but I have it this time. But really, this is the average time to have it. And it's a good time because you're working with the energy of the moon. So you're releasing as well. Your body is actually releasing. So this is how the moon has its influence on us as women, and that's why we are very sensitive to the moon phases. But watch the next time you get your period, what moon phase is it on? Now, I do have to say sometimes birth control does alter that. So birth control can kind of alter your natural phase that you're going to have your moon time, or if you're in that some of those birth controls that make you don't have a period at all, so you might not know. But anyways, this is the natural time to have it, kind of thing. And then after that, we go into what's called the dark moon. And you can see down here, there's complete darkness. There's usually about 3 days of dark moon. And this is often a time, sort of traditionally speaking, there are spells that can be done in the dark moon, usually dark magic or what's called black magic, perhaps revenge magic is done during the dark moon. However, more often than not, it's been recommended that you don't do magic at all in the dark moon because we all need a rest every once in a while. And we've done so much work in every other phase that the dark moon is kind of a restful time and a time to take a break and do that self-care. And especially going into that balsamic moon, like I said, is a time of very gentleness with yourself, pampering, what you might consider pampering, which is actually self-care. You know, take that time to, you know, have the nap, you know, make yourself the nice cup of coffee, go and have the pedicure, make yourself the bubble bath, whatever it might be. That's a good time to kind of feed your soul and feed your body all at the same time with these loving acts for yourself. And it's very important to do them because if you don't do them, it's hard to love other people or let other people in your life if you're not loving yourself. Now, that being said, like I said, this is all inside, all this explanation is inside my book, The Witch's Way, Intro to the Craft, as well as a whole bunch of other information about tools and altars and how to cast a circle and the whole nine. So if you want that book, let me know. You can contact me here or on Facebook through Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor, and you can order up that book. I'm going to put some links in for the books that I'm going to be showing you shortly here, but I wanted to talk about one more little thing to do with the moon, and it's called the Void of Course. Now the moon goes into this stage called the Void of Course fairly often, And it can go in there for a few minutes, for a few hours, for it doesn't usually go longer than a day. I think 24 hours is about the longest I've ever seen it. Now, it's hard to know when it's there unless you've got like, I believe Farmer's Almanac, and usually any witch's almanac will tell you when the moon is in the void of course. And like I said, this can happen multiple times a month, or it might happen a couple times one month and, you know, 5 times the next month. It's dependent on the moon. She is who she is. So what the void of course is basically, it's kind of like, in modern day terms, the moon has turned her computer off and shut her cell phone off, and she's put her briefcase down, and she's on a break, and she's not taking any calls, and she's not answering any emails or reading any text messages for the whole time that she's in the void of course. And she does give you all the times, like I said, through those almanacs. You'll know when they are. Now, the thing about the void of course is things can go a little sideways when you're doing stuff during that point. So that's also not a good time for you to cast any spells. It's not a good time to do any important emails or sign any important documents, for instance, during that time. You may find that there's a bit more miscommunication during that time, misunderstandings, maybe even arguments because of a misunderstanding, you know, whether it's in person with your husband or over text with your child, whatever it might be. You'll find there's a little bit more of that happening. Now, if it's only a few minutes, no big deal. If it's a few hours, luckily, most of the time that I've found that she goes into void of course, we're usually asleep. So it's like 2 in the morning till 4:30 in the morning, she's in void of course. I'm not talking to my husband during that time, so I don't have any issues that way. I'm not answering emails or text messages. I'm sleeping. So it's good to check and make sure, especially if you've got something important coming up. Just see when the void of courses are, and also understand what they mean, because a lot of people don't always understand what void of course means. So that's what that means. And in any almanac, you'll either see it as void of course, or you'll see it as V/C, and that means void of course. So that being said, I've got some really cool books too that I wanted to sort of show you. So I've got this one. Now this is By the Light of the Moon, a year of full moon spells and rituals, and it's by Penniless Pagan here. And it's not a bad book. It's if you don't know a lot about the moon, there might be some stuff that's kind of, you know, not well explained at first, but she does have a lot of great things as far as, you know, she's got let me see here, she's got, let me get there, sorry. So 13 magical herbs and sort of what is around them, the different colors and their meanings. Some of that you might already know, so it's either going to sound very basic or you're going to feel like some stuff is missing, especially when it comes to moon stuff. There's a lot of sort of witchy stuff in here, and there's a lot of full moon spells, which are very cool. And because she's the Penniless Pagan, they're not expensive spells, so you don't have, there's not a lot of investment in them. So it's kind of an inspirational book as far as spells to do on the full moon. So that's kind of nice. But there's some, you know, color stuff and that sort of stuff. So this isn't a bad book if you're looking for some inspiration for spells to do on the full moon. I would recommend this book. This is not going to teach you about full moon cycles or anything like that. So know that going into it. But again, who doesn't need some extra spells in their spell book, right? So now I'm going to go on to another book by Yasmin Boland. She's very, very popular, Moonology. As you can see, I do use her book because I've got some pages tabbed here. And her book is really good for teaching you a lot about the moon. She also ties in the zodiac when the moon is in a certain time, like if it's in Scorpio or if it's in Aries or whatever it is. She talks about the mantras and the magical work you can be doing depending on what phase the moon is in, but also what sign the moon is in. So I really like that. It's a very extensive book. It's you know, it's 240 pages, or give or take. I really like this book. What I like even better though is the oracle card deck that goes with this book. Well, it doesn't really go with this book. You could use this independently. You don't have to have the book to use the oracle cards. I love these Moonology oracle cards. First of all, just looking at even just the back of them is kind of cool. It reminds you about all the phases of the moon. And the one thing is, when you use this deck, if you're using it to counsel other people, I mean, you can always read the book, but that's not very professional, obviously. When you use these cards, you need to be aware of your moon phases, and you need to know what each moon means. So because I work with the moon all the time, and I do know the moon, I teach about moon phases, that sort of thing, that The Witch's Way Intro to the Craft book, that's my textbook that I use when I'm teaching Intro to the Craft, but I talk a lot about moon phases and whatnot. So a new romantic cycle begins, new moon in Libra. So when you're talking about these cards, for instance, so you need to know what new moon means, so what's being done. You also need to know about Libra. You need to know about the zodiac sign. And then there's the statement, of course. So I find I use these cards a lot, almost every reading I do, because I do one in the beginning and one at the end, because I want to know what kind of energy you're bringing in and where you're coming from, and this really very much tells me, and then what energy you need to go out with, or what energy you should be approaching when you're leaving one of my readings. So I suggest, like, for instance, don't let your pride get in the way, full moon in Leo. So if someone pulls this and it's at the end of the reading, I would be telling them, go out and grab every opportunity you can to talk to people, to be in that spotlight, anything like that. And, you know, I would go in more depending on what the reading would say. But that's kind of the idea. I need to know what Leos are about and what full moons are about. So Leos they love the spotlight. They're the lions. They're, you know, they can be aggressive in that charming sort of way. And it's a full moon. So this is a real power phase for a Leo. And it doesn't have to be that you are Leo. It means that you've got that Leo energy around you right now. So that's the time to grab it. So depending on what sign, you are, I will cater that to whatever shows up, kind of thing. Because ultimately we have all the zodiac signs, because if you look at your birth chart, you know, you've put planets and energy in different houses, which then are governed by different signs. So you might be a Taurus when it comes to you know, your home, and then you might be a Capricorn when it comes to business, sort of thing. So it sort of depends on who you are zodiacally. I don't think that's a word, in the zodiac sign of who you are, what you were born under, and then depending on what card shows up, then we know what kind of energy is around you, because I understand the zodiac and I understand the moon phases as well. So I love this deck for that, because it really does show you a lot of, oh, I flipped the cards around, show you, you know, a lot. There's another Leo one. I'm getting a lot of Leo. Maybe it's because I'm on camera. But there's the new moon in Leo, and we just had the full moon in Leo. Confidence is the key to your success, and Leos are all about that confidence. They have that swagger, you know, like how lions have that swagger. Leos tend to have that swagger too, and they're very good in the spotlight. That's where they shine. So that's a really cool deck. Again, it's also the same title as the book. It's the Moonology deck. It's a beautiful deck to have. But like I said, that particular deck does actually come with some responsibility. You need to understand the signs of the zodiac, and you need to understand the stages of the moon in order to be able to really professionally interpret those cards. Again, like I said, you can go to the book. Yasmin Boland knows her stuff, definitely, but it's also good to have that knowledge on hand as opposed to going to the book every time. The book that comes with the deck, I mean. There's a book that comes with the deck. I don't have it. I'm not sure where the box went because I use this deck so much that I keep it in silk with my working tarot deck. So I'm not sure where I put the box. I'm sure I put it in a very safe place. But I don't know where that safe place is right now. And then there's Moon Magic. And this one is by Rachel Patterson, Moon Magic. I really, really like this book. I love Yasmin's deck. I love this book for Moon Magic. Don't get me wrong, I love Yasmin's book for Moon Magic too, or Moonology and Knowledge. But I just find Rachel, the way she's laid it out in her book, she's done a really good job of explaining the moon, the different cycles, the different aspects of the lunar cycle sort of thing. She goes through the new moon, she goes through the waxing moon, she goes through every little phase. She has rituals for each phase, depending on what you want to do and what you're looking to bring in. She's one of the few that I've noticed that will actually, because I do this in my book, that actually has a script for you for, you know, calling in the quarters, releasing the quarters, that sort of thing. There's not a lot of books that do that, especially when you're first starting out. They tell you about tools and blah, blah, blah. In my book, I do tell you a basic, casting of the moon, which is really nice, but she does one for each different phase as well. Like I said, she kind of explains what each phase is about. She even goes into blue moons and red moons. She goes into the names of the moons. She's got an extensive list of the names of the moons. You know, like there's the wolf moon and the hunter's moon, and you know, but like every moon has like a bazillion different names. There's the strawberry moon and the fish moon, and there's the worm moon, and but they all often are the same. Like for instance, like October, well, let's do November. So November, snow moon, dark moon, fog moon, beaver moon, morning moon, mad moon, moon of storms, and moon when deer shed antlers. So good to know that. And she talks about the energy of each moon and each month and what kind of energy you're looking for. So for November, she's got work, magic for transformation, preparation, strength, communication with the divine, and inner work. So it's kind of cool. She gives you kind of an energy for each month. She even goes through the Celtic tree calendar, which is awesome. I love that. Moon deities, so you know what goddesses and gods are associated with the moon. There's mostly goddesses because the moon is female, of course, but there is maybe the odd god. I don't know. I know there is. I'm not sure if she's listed it. She's got some meditations in here. She's got how to set up a moon altar, drawing down the moon, which a lot of people don't always understand as well. So she explains the drawing down of the moon ritual, which is very cool, so that you understand that and know what you're doing. She does go through as well, like Yasmin did, the zodiac astrological moon signs, and how they work with new moons and full moons and vice versa, that sort of thing. What else does she have? Planting. Oh yeah, planting with the moon, because of course the gardening is very big with the moon. If you plant with the moon cycles, you'll have a much more successful garden. And that's what the Farmer's Almanac is all about, right? They talk about the moon phases and what to do in each moon phase. So this is very cool that she includes that. And she's got some moon charms and moon herbs, I think, and crystals. And she talks about fairies and angels a little bit to do with the moon. It's a thin book. There's a load of information on this. So this is Moon Magic, and it's Rachel Patterson. Like I said, Moonology with Yasmin Boland is a very good book as well. Like you can see, it's a well-worked book by me. This one I don't have tabs in because there's just so much information on every single page. It'd just be a book of tabs. So this one and Yolanda's book, or Yasmin's book, sorry, are the two that I use the most. This one I generally just do for inspiration because it's mostly about spells. It doesn't talk a lot about the moon. And then, of course, I love my Moonology deck. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit, like I said, about the moon. She's a beautiful thing. It's always nice, no matter what the time of day or time of night, I mean, to go out and see where the moon is, to physically go outside and see where she is, see where she's at, and see if you can tell whether she's waxing or waning. You might not at first be able to tell which way she's going, but generally speaking, because I do moon circles too, so I kind of always know where she's at. And I find if I haven't looked at her in a few days, I find I'm a little off. I'm like, okay, so where are we in the cycle, right? Because you start to then sync up with her. And, oh, there's Bob, my cat. Hi, Bob. He wanted to join the party, I guess. So I find I fall out of sync with her. Say hi, Bob. There's Bob. Hi. So I find I fall out of sync, and I want to get back into sync with her, and it's a beautiful energy, and it's lovely to bathe under her. Hi, now he really wants attention. So I just wanted to talk about that, because when you know what she's doing, then you can kind of sync your life up with her, and thus you're syncing it up with the universe's energy when it's ebbing and flowing, and it will explain a lot of things in your life, and it will make life smoother and easier for you. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. I'm just starting out on my video career here, but I'm hoping to have a lot more videos that are very informative for you. And please feel free to comment. Please feel free to come and visit me on Facebook at Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor. So it's Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor. And I'm also on Instagram as Lady Rose Tarot. And I'm on Twitter, and it's Lady Rose Tarot as well, and there is my handle. So if you can find me, I would love for you to connect. And I'll see you again next time with some more information. And happy day. Bye.